In my work as a producer and cameraman, I get to travel all over the UK, filming some pretty exciting stuff in some of this country's most stunning locations. Whenever I can, I avoid staying in hotels, and instead I like to live, sleep and work out of my trusty T5. Now I can see how you might be wondering how all this came about. Well, the truth is, it's a bit of a long story. My van and I. Me, my van and I. Me, my van and I. Me, my van and I. For a number of years now, I've had a bed in the back of the van, but I didn't really think of it in terms of camping or anything like that. And then a couple of friends of ours told us about a cunning plan they had to do this triathlon from John O Groats to Land's End, taking in the highest mountains and the longest lakes. As soon as I heard about it, I knew I had to film it. But thinking about the logistics a bit more, 10 days worth of filming, late finishes, early starts, it was going to be a complete nightmare to try and find hotels or bed and breakfasts along the way. So I decided to do the whole thing based out of the van. And I think that was probably a life-changing experience. The trip was covered in stages by a team of 4. Richard, who was the cyclist, his wife Joanne the swimmer, Joanne's mum Marge a kayak paddler, and Joanne's stepdad John a mountain runner. We had a 10-day schedule to get from John O Groats to Land's End, but I went up a few days early to see a bit of the far north of Scotland before heading on to John O Groats. So made it up to the top of the country, probably about 30 miles away from John O Groats. We're here at Sandside, which is just actually in a little village called Ray. It's just a stunning beach. Doon Ray is literally just a stone's throw across the water. Although I have to say, in a strange sort of way, and a lot of people will disagree with this, I think it actually sits quite nicely in the landscape, personally. But there you go, that's me. Something else actually, it is the end of June, and maybe I'm just being unrealistic, but I wasn't going to take this jacket, but I'm rather glad I did. I got to John O Groats quite early before Richard and Joanne arrived and had a little look around. It was quite nice, but utterly deserted, almost as if it had been abandoned in a hurry. Richard and Joanne turned up, and then we abandoned it too. I felt a bit sorry for the place, if I'm honest, but we had miles to consume and a date with John early next morning in Aviemore, so he could run the Cairngorm 4000ers. Richard rode this leg overnight, and there wasn't any time to get sentimental about starting our big adventure. I just had to drive and film and try to get into some kind of rhythm. The logistics of handling kit in the dark was tricky as well. By sunrise though, I was in the zone, and before you knew it, we'd arrived in Aviemore without incident. John was there, all ready to go, and then Rich appeared, slowly just rising up over the road. The handover was made, and off John went. Right from the start with the mountain running part, I knew that it wasn't going to be possible to get up into the mountains to film John. So what I did instead is I gave him the flip cam, and he did a superb job, to be honest. He got shots of crags, of precipitous drops, some of the mountain ranges, views, all this sort of things. In the Cairngorms, he got shots of reindeer, all sorts of wildlife. And he really gave you an accurate view of what it was like on the mountain at that time. And turned out that these little video diaries were one of the best parts of the whole film. The main focus for me was obviously telling the story of the trip, but I also wanted to capture the landscape we were travelling through, and Scotland especially offered up some great mountain scenery. Richard's bike stages also provided a near constant stream of lay-by landscapes, from Ruthven Barracks to Loch Leven and Glencoe, but the shots didn't always go the way I planned. there was quite a decent car park above Loch Tulla, and it was sort of on the hillside as the road snaked around, and it was a brilliant piece of road. And I had a perfect shot set up of this bridge, and I was going to get a beautiful long shot of Richard cycling across this bridge, except that there was a minibus that had other ideas. The trick was always to balance the need to get enough shots of Richard and the others in action with opportunities that came along, like the choice between chasing Rich down Glenorchy or shooting this fantastic waterfall. The third component was the 3 lakes, and Joanne was going to swim 2 and paddle a kayak on the third and longest lake, Loch Orr, which was about 25 miles long. I grabbed a few shots early on from the bank, and then went ahead to a place where I could get the kayak on the water to rig up some onboard shots.
I just paddled up to meet the girls. Horrible, absolutely blowing a gale out there. It looks quite benign, but it's not. So it's good that they're going with the wind. Paddling against the wind is just horrible. It's just hard work, hard slog, and then you get a gust from time to time, and it just really kicks up. And it's kind of coming across. It's a southerly wind, so it's going a little bit across the lake, and it's just not pleasant at all.
I got the shots I needed, but with the weather as bad as it was, I abandoned ship when they came ashore for lunch and focused on capturing the mood of the loch after that. Now, Kilhern Castle is just a phenomenal place. The moment I saw it, I fell in love with it. It's one of these, it's a kind of a typical Scottish castle on a loch. I found the castle on Loch Ness a bit of an anticlimax, if I'm honest. It was sort of almost tucked away into a little cove, you know, it didn't stand out. Kilhern Castle, it's right at the head of the loch. You can't miss it, you just go straight to it.
Morning. Although it looks very bright, it's 4:30 in the morning, so I've just had a couple of hours quickly, and early start this morning because Richard needs to get himself through Glasgow before rush hour traffic. So just going to dash down now and hopefully pick him up on the main drag through Clydebank, and it's out the other side and heading on down to the Lake District. So we'll be leaving Scotland. Today's basically just going to be a long drive. So what I'm going to try and do is, one of the things I really want to try and do is get ahead of the guys a little bit, stop for a little bit, have a wash, have a shave. I'm getting very prickly, very itchy. I'm sure there's a few midges have mated for life and made their nest in there somewhere, because I can kind of feel the little babies squealing out for mummy, going, feed me, feed me. Right, just seen Richard go past, so time to catch up.
And then there was the strange case of the lay-by.
Bit of a pain. This day seems to be going, well, it's not going badly, it's just things happening. Getting lost. Navigation's been tough. Richard almost ended up going on the motorway because the signage wasn't that clear. And I've just pulled into a lay-by, come all the way to the end after almost a half a mile, and it's a dead end.
Putting the lay-by incident behind me, I hacked onto the border for that essential shot of Rich riding from Scotland into England, and got there in plenty of time to stare pensively out of the side door, and to moan about the van getting into a mess, again.
I've yet to find a way to keep the van tidy during the day while I'm working.
3, 2, 1, and back in the room. Once again, at the end of the stage, navigation was difficult, and actually finding our way up to the foot of Skiddaw proved to be one of the most testing things of the whole day. Might not have helped the fact that we were trying to navigate small country lanes using a road atlas. But we got there. And in the end, actually, we finished relatively early in the afternoon, and that was a real bonus because it enabled me to go off in search of a campsite. Having spent a couple of nights in the wild, I have to say it was really, really good to be able to connect up to some mains electricity and be able to charge the batteries, run the laptop from power, download all the footage, do all these essential little things. You know, it's not much, but a little bit of electricity goes a long way in my book. And then finally, that thing I've been trying to do for days, have a shave. So, the Lakeland 3000ers, big day, big day. The plan was for me to rendezvous with John at Seathwaite, where he would then go up to the Scafell's. Now, I had heard that Seathwaite was the wettest place in Britain, but I hadn't quite figured on it demonstrating exactly how wet it is on that day. I kind of had a sense that things could be tricky as I drove in, but thought maybe it'll be nice a nice place to hang out for a couple of hours, shoot some landscape, that sort of thing. Yeah.
This valley is just stunning. I wish I could see it.
So I was in a van in the wettest place on earth, no phone signal and no internet connection, and I was just praying that I hadn't got my location wrong.
What I did like when I arrived here, there was a row of sheep trying to shelter from the rain along the edge of a wall. I'm going to see if I can get a shot of that. If they're still there, they've probably given up by now. But these sheep are really cool. This is going to sound funny, but they actually look like they're wearing sweaters because they've got white heads and grey bodies. And I'm sure right now somebody's watching this going, I know what that's the grey woolly Lakeland fell sheep or something like that. So answers on a postcard, and I'm sure there'll be comments posted against this video telling me which sheep they are. But don't worry, by that time I will have done the research and I will know what kind of sheep they are, because I'm curious. I'm curious about these sheep. I'm going to go and prep the camera in a minute.
Despite being fully equipped, you still actually have to stand out in the rain and just get absolutely drenched. But then as soon as I saw John, it kind of occurred to me that what I was enduring, or what I felt I was enduring, standing out in the rain trying to film him, was actually nothing in comparison to what he was having to do, which was to endure the same rain as I was, but then also to actually run up mountains to navigate, to stay safe in the hills. So shots in the can from Seathwaite, John was on his merry way, and there was going to be quite a lot of time now until he would come down at the finish of his run. So I decided to head down to Bowness to check out Windermere, to just kind of chill out a little bit, if I'm honest, but also to get some shots of Windermere, some background shots of Windermere, because I knew that once things kicked off again, I wasn't going to have time or the luxury of time to be able to film Windermere at leisure.